Welcome friends. In today's lecture we are going to discuss about the bearing. What are the significance of bearing, then types of bearing, then what are the related terminologies which are used in the principle of design of bearing. Very first we will see what is the bearing. It is a machine element whose function is to support the rotating machine part and to provide the relative motion with minimum friction. These are the three functions which bearing should have to carry out, or it should have this basic or compulsory function to call a machine component as a bearing. So it gives a support. Then how it is different from a fixed support? It is actually not a fixed support, as it also provides relative motion. And the another important work done by the bearing is to provide minimum friction by lubrication. By applying lubricant, either hydraulic or pneumatic, the friction is reduced so that there will be a smooth relative motion. We will see one by one the types and classification of bearing. Here are the two basic types of bearing. One is sliding contact bearing, another is rolling contact bearing. We will see all these in details with figure. Just have a look. And what is the basic classification? Rolling contact bearing is also known as anti-friction bearing, and it is again divided into two types, that is ball bearing and roller bearing. This roller bearing is used in the gearboxes of heavy vehicles like which I have seen and which I work on particular project. It was the roller bearing or roller cage bearing, it is called more specifically, which was used in the 407 vehicle of Tata. That is a heavy vehicle generally used for earth moving applications. And ball bearing you may have seen in your bicycles or in the some rotating parts of general purpose, right? The roller cage bearing can be manufactured with very small dimensions. I will draw a figure explaining the roller cage bearing. Let us say this is a complete cage. Okay. Now such rollers are fixed. This is, let us say, a solid roller, and similar on all over the circumference such rollers are there, so that any shaft, let us say, I will draw with another example, another color. Let us say this is the shaft. Okay. So that this surface of the shaft, outer surface, will be in contact with these rollers. If let us say here is another roller present. So here is let us say another roller. All over the circumference there will be rollers. So these rollers will rotate freely in this cage, and this cage supports these rollers. So it will help to reduce friction and for a smooth rotation of the shaft. Whereas in ball bearing, you may have seen it is very commonly observed in bicycles and all. Let us say this is a cage and some small pieces or balls of a steel or any desired material will be present, and here inside the cage there will be a shaft, let us say. Now this rollers or balls will, actually spheres will be there, rotate, uh, so that there will be very less friction in between this bearing and shaft. So in this way it will help assess the motion, rotating motion. Another type is sliding contact bearing, which are basically divided or classified into class axial or thrust load bearing. Another is radial bearing, or that means radial load bearing, also known as journal bearing. This is the very most topic or bearing type which is generally asked in examinations. The questions are mostly asked on journal bearing. We will also see the working principle of how it is designed. Right. So let us see one by one. The axial thrust load bearing. Here it is classified again in pivot and collar bearing. Right, pivot bearing, and it is also called a footstep. Here there is a complete surface contact. Here you can see as this at the foot of the shaft, like a pivot, and that's why there will be higher friction, or the friction or the contact surface will be higher. To reduce that, one another type is conical pivot bearing. Here it is also a type of axial bearing. Just to reduce this contact surface, the lower part of the bearing is machined like a cone, and it will look like this, so that this can easily rotate in around this axis, longitudinal axis. Now the collar bearing are again classified into flat collar and conical collar. Just by looking the figure, you can see here the axial load is like this, and it is supported, or this shaft is supported by this bearing. Again, there is a flat surface in contact with the let us say this shaft, driven shaft. And in case of conical collar, here you can see instead of flat surface there is a cone surface. That's why this collar is called a conical collar. Right. The difference in this two is, here you can see there is axial load and complete load is on the bearing, whereas here in collar bearing the shaft is longitudinally placed, and even though load is axial, but bearing are not at the bottom but at one of the side of the shaft. So these axial pivot bearing need to be very strong, because it has to support all the load of the driven shaft. If any other machine is associated with this driven shaft, then it also should be supported by this bearing. Here is a writing. Mistakenly I have write it as bearing. It is a bearing, right? Then let us move to the next slide. Radial load bearing or journal bearing. This is the very most important, so we'll again study it in detail. If there is a clearance, then again journal bearing is divided into two more subtypes, that is full journal bearing and partial journal bearing. Here another type is without clearance. If there is no clearance, that means this shaft diameter and the bearing diameter are almost same. Here you can see, you can even write they are equal. That means there is no clearance as such. Whereas in uh, this bearing with clearance, the bearing inner diameter of the bearing will be greater than the shaft diameter. Here you can see this, let us say this bearing, this is the bearing, and this is the inner diameter. It is greater than the shaft diameter. This inside circle is the shaft, cross section of shaft. Now, if the angle or the contact surface enclosed by a angle, that is here you can see, let us say this is the half portion of the shaft. Here I am drawing. This is the half portion, that means this is, let us say, diameter. Here you can see this angle enclosed by this bearing is greater than 180 degree, and in such case if this angle enclosed is greater than greater than 180 degree and less than 360, that means if this would be a complete circle, then we can call it a completely enclosed. Here you can see this is a full journal bearing, whereas if this contact or the enclosed shaft is not in full contact, or the contact is lesser than, let us say, theta enclosed by this portion, let us say, is less than 180 degree, then such type of bearing is called partial journal bearing. Now we'll talk about the bearing without clearance. It is also called a fitted journal, because you can see as bearing inside diameter is approximately equal to the shaft diameter, so it will be fitted with no clearance, fixed type of, like, not fixed exactly, but there will be no clearance, so it is called fitted journal bearing. Even though there will be a play so that the shaft can rotate easily. Now we will see the working principle of this journal bearing, how it works. Let us say full journal bearing. This is the diagram. Here is the outer diameter. Here is the inner diameter. That means this is the complete bearing. Okay, and there is a dotted. Here this dot shows that there is a lubricant, and this inner circle is nothing but the cross section of the shaft. You will see in next figure. Here you can see clearly. At very first, when the speed is 0, RPM is 0, both these surfaces will be in contact. The shaft will be in a direct contact with the bearing surface. This is the inner diameter of bearing. Okay, and this is the lubricant. As the shaft starts rotating, before that, what will be the position of their centers? We will see the center of the bearing, which is starting. This is O, and the O dash or O1 is the center of shaft. It will be moving. As here in first case, you can see these are in line, right? Both these centers are in line. As the speed increases, let us say speed becomes greater than 0, that means the shaft starts rotating. It will try to climb this inner surface of the bearing. Because of such type of rotation, it will try to climb on this inner surface of bearing gradually. Once it will attain a particular speed, higher speed, then what will happen? Because of this fluid or lubricant, there will be a dynamic pressure will be generated due to the motion of this fluid, because rotation of this shaft will also rotate this fluid lubricant. So what will happen? There will be two principles will be there in this bearing. which will cause to lift this shaft. You will see in next figure. This pressure will increase due to dynamic action of the lubricant as well as due to the converging action. Let us say here you can see this is a portion, or let us say this is the, I will draw properly. Here you can see here, isn't it a like a throttle, like a shape, or a, what I can say, you may have seen in hydraulics. If this area is greater here at initial point and this is final point, the fluid is moving from this direction to this direction. Let us say this is a pipe. Sorry, yeah. This is a pipe with converging area. So the pressure at this point will be lesser, whereas pressure at this point 2 will be higher. P2 will be greater than P1. This is a nozzle type arrangement will be there. So such a converging action, because of that there will be increase in pressure. So it is also called as hydrodynamic lubrication of bearing. Hydrodynamic lubrication bearing. Right. Load is supported by high pressure of lubricant, and there are two reasons behind this. This was the mechanism of general bearing. Right. Hope you got the concept of this general bearing and different types of bearing, and what is the significance of this bearing, and complete idea about their pictorial representation. So if you have any doubt, you can ask in comment box. Till then, you can ask. You can watch our previous videos related to clutch, gear, brake, and many topics regarding the machine design, which will be helpful for your preparation if you are preparing for any exam like GATE, ISRO, PSU, DRDO. Thank you for watching. Signing off for the day.